Okay, good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the Peabody School Committee meeting to order. Today is Tuesday, April 1st, 2025, and we are starting our meeting tonight at 7:04 p.m. here at our usual location at the Higgins Middle School Library, 85 Perkins Street. As always, our minutes tonight are being taken by our recording secretary, Laura Bowe. We are being broadcast live on Peabody TV, and you are able to access the meeting remotely. Anybody who would like to come in and join us during public participation, we will open the line up and bring you into the meeting. If you can just indicate that you'd like to speak. And I'd like to start off our meeting tonight with a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. If everybody could please stand. Okay, thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next, we'll go to item number 2, minutes from the March 25th, 2025 regular school committee meeting. I'd open that up for discussion and a vote.
Motion to approve minutes from the March 25, 2025 regular school committee meeting.
Second.
Thank you. You've heard the motion by Mr. Hockman, seconded by Mr. Amico, to approve the minutes of the regular school committee meeting of March 25th, 2025. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Hockman.
Yes.
Mr. Swanson.
Yes.
Mrs. Dunn.
Yes.
Mr. Amico.
Yes.
Thank you. Next is approval of bills. We do have 2 warrants, and I wanted to ask Mr. Amico if he could move forward with those warrants.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to approve warrant number 5994 in the amount of $144,439.20.
Second.
Great, thank you. You've heard the motion by Mr. Amico for approval of warrant number 5994, seconded by Mr. Swanson. Any comments? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Hockman.
Yes.
Mr. Swanson.
Yes.
Mrs. Dunn. Yes. Mr. Amico.
Yes. Continuing, I'd like to make a motion to approve warrant number 5995 in the amount of $301,648.80. So
Second.
moved.
Okay. Thank you. You've heard the motion by Mr. Amico for approval of warrant number 5995, seconded by Mr. Swanson. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Hockman.
Yes.
Mr. Swanson.
Yes.
Mrs. Dunn.
Yes.
Mr. Amico.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Amico. Next item, number 4, continued business. We do have the Peabody Veterans Memorial High School MSBA project update. Anything to report today, Mrs. Dunn?
No, just very briefly, excuse me, next week, April 10th, there is a motion before the City Council seeking funding for the feasibility study, which is the next step on our deliverables. The deadline for that is April 28th. However, I've heard that if we do get it in early, we might possibly be able to get on the MSBA board meeting for a decision. So there's a good chance. And that's all I have right now. We won't have a school building committee meeting till May.
Thank you, Mrs. Dunn. Appreciate the report. Next, superintendent's report. Dr. Vidal, I'll turn it over to you and your team.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For this evening, we just have one item about Center School reopening. So just have a brief presentation for the committee. So the good news is the plan is to reopen the Center School. This was discussed at a school committee meeting on March 11th. And we are currently on schedule to open for the school year 2025-2026. We held a community meeting on March 19th, and last week we had our redistricting subcommittee meeting, Wednesday, March 26th at 7 p.m. here in the Higgins Library, and families can expect notification regarding their neighborhood schools and the open enrollment requests as early as tomorrow, April 2nd. So just a couple quick updates. In terms of the elementary school, the plan will be to occupy the main building at the Center School with 2 classrooms per grade, K to 5. That would be 12 classrooms. This plan would allow for additional spaces for libraries, specials, etc. Our principal and our school clerk will return to the main office area, as well as the nurse returning to the main office building where the nurse's office has historically been. Our custodial and food service staff will return, and this proposal will require some redistricting based on geographic location to allow for the 12 homerooms at the Center School and 18 homerooms at the McCarthy School. Some questions that have been submitted that I wanted just to follow up on. The selection of a principal is complete. We're very excited to welcome back Principal Almeida to the Center School next year. The family choices, there have been questions about what is the process and the timing. Those will be happen between April 2nd and April 17th. Will allow for plenty of time for parents to make a decision. Extensions will be allowed upon request. If anybody needs more time with that, we'll certainly work with the families. We'll plan on meetings with the families. Individual meetings are encouraged if anybody has any questions about the process or needs to talk about, what their individual specific family situation is. Our class size, right now, we are looking at 18 to 22 in each class for each grade before open enrollment, and that would be kids going in and out. We anticipate that our teacher and our staff placement will happen sometime during this month, April 2025. Some of those positions are budget dependent, so that'll be a big discussion during our budget process in terms of if people want to stay where they are or returning. The classroom layouts and logistics, that is currently underway, and we'll be working with Principal Almeida on that during the months of April and May. Teachers will be able to set up their classrooms beginning in the summer of 2025, so we're very excited to welcome them back. Opening day for teachers next year will be August 25th, 2025, and opening day for students will be August 26th, 2025. That's the Tuesday before Labor Day. We had a question last week about proposed enrollment per grade. So we were able to put this together based on geographic location. So we are projecting kindergarten to be in and around 40 students based on the neighborhood that we're looking at. And that's pretty much the midpoint between many of the classes that we have. So grade 1 would be 44 students, grade 2, 41, grade 3, 38. Grade 4 would have 44 students, and grade 5 would be 36, for a total of 243 students. This is before open enrollment, and we know that we have a number of these families that would like to stay in their current school, and also a number of families that would like to open enroll to the Center School. So given that, we have plenty of flexibility with the proposed class sizes of 18 to 22. That would give us plenty of room for families to opt out and still have enough students there for 2 classrooms, or for families to opt in, and we still have plenty of seats available for families that want to do that. The redistricting proposal is based on the work of the redistricting committee. And so a couple notes that I just wanted to share with everyone. The concept of redistricting has been discussed with this committee and since I've been here since 2020. This particular plan that we presented last week and are presenting again tonight was not finalized until after the March 11th, 2025 school committee meeting, when the final decision was made that the Center School would reopen. We had concepts of the plan, but the final streets and things like that were still moving parts, and it was finalized after the March 11th meeting. So then we shared that proposal on March 19th at the community meeting. So that was the first time that we shared this proposal publicly. The redistricting committee met on March 26th, and what they voted on is the streets off of 114 would go to the Carroll School, and the streets west of Prospect and Lowell Street would go to the McCarthy School. And so the redistricting subcommittee voted unanimously to accept those. In the school committee packet, you have a listing of all of the streets that were part of the Center School before and what their proposed locations would be. And so for tonight, we're looking for a request that the school committee vote to follow the recommendations of the redistricting subcommittee. So I'd like to pause here for discussion, and then I have one more slide after this about the logistics and things that we can expect for families after the vote.
Okay, thank you. Any comments, questions for Dr. Vidal at this time? Mr. Dunn?
I do have a question. Excuse me. In the packet of information that you gave to us after the meeting closed, there are maps in this packet. How current are these maps?
So those maps have been used over time. Is there a specific one that you're looking at? I know we had some of those go back to 22. Some of them are as current as 25. There was a color one that was printed out last week, I believe. Yeah, if there's a specific one that you're looking at.
No, I'm just wondering if when you came to us with this suggested redistricting plan, you had current numbers noted on the maps that have been used, or if these were, 5-year-old numbers of students, because one of them says 2020. And as you know, the population moves and things change, and right now, I want to make sure we're accurate. If we're using 5-year-old data,
Yeah,
that's definitely a problem.
This slide here is current data. These are actual people that we anticipate will be enrolled. We've used maps over time, and so we have the ones from 2020 that we used to look at where the concentrations are, and then there were 2022 maps, and then there are 2025 maps. So we have maps from over the course of the past 5 years, and we've looked at trends and things like that. But this projection here on this slide is actual number of students that are enrolled in the PBD public schools, with the exception of kindergarten, which we're estimating. So these are exact numbers of students that would be living in that geographic region and would have the opportunity to transition in or out.
Okay, is it a slide that you can put up on the screen?
This one right here. This is what I'm talking about. Those numbers are based on the maps that we have. Those are the accurate numbers.
Okay, all right. Now, the other question that I had asked, and I did explain, that I wanted to be able to see the impact on the other schools in the district, because nothing operates in a vacuum. Whatever we do at the center is going to impact on the other schools. Do you have those numbers yet?
Yeah, so class size would be 18 to 22. The average class size would be 22 across the district with these. So we are looking to bring students out of the Carroll, the Welch, the South, and the McCarthy to open up. So these, minus the 40, so these 203 students are currently enrolled in other elementary schools. So those schools, their enrollment would decrease as we were to open this, and so it would have a positive impact on class size across the district. Of course, every time we go through the budget, now during budget season, we'll talk about the enrollment in every school, and we'll make budgetary decisions based on those numbers, and that may affect class size in either direction, depending on the budget. But we'll have less students in the other 7 elementary schools than we do this year, based on reopening the center school.
Okay. Well, I'll be honest with you. Before I can make an honest decision on this, I would want to see all those numbers. I really would, because this is a big change for one school. It is a change for the others as well. And I think that in fairness to all the people who have children at the elementary schools, they really should know what the plan is if you're going to have to redistrict any other neighborhoods in the school system. They should know. It figures in on our buses. Have we looked at the buses yet for center school?
I'm unclear on what you're asking, Mrs. Dunn.
I'm just asking if you've looked at all the pieces of this proposal and its impact on the rest of the city.
Yes, we have.
Okay.
Yes, and all of the other schools will have reduced enrollment based on bringing these students back. I mean, there might be some outliers, the further out west you go, there are less center school students that attended some of those schools. However, the immediate schools that received the most students, those students will be coming back. So we looked at our numbers. This is our proposal based on what we believe is best for the district and what we believe will have the least amount of impact on all the other schools.
Okay. Well, for the record, one of the problems that I have with this whole thing is when it started, it was very simple. We were going to have all the students and the staff at the center school move out for a year. We were going to repair what we needed at the school, and because there would be no people in the building, we would be able to get a lot of work done to come up with a lot of really good improvements in that building to keep it going for hopefully for 10 more years. The change was bringing the preschool into that building. That changed everything. If you hadn't brought the preschool in and made it permanent, there'd be no need for the redistricting and the changes and all the things that people now have to adjust to. And they haven't had a long time to adjust to it either, but I know time is precious. The thing is, when you decided to make a preschool center and put the preschools all together, that was a big change. That was a big change because no one knew that was going to be permanent. So now you have an elementary school that is adjusting to a very different configuration that's going to impact on all of the areas that we follow in the school committee, staffing, budget, everything. And
Mrs. Dunn, I respectfully disagree. When we did this, we had a community meeting in September of '23 and talked about how we were moving the preschool. The initial decision to move the preschool, it wasn't supposed to go to the center school. We were looking at places in Centennial Drive,
Right.
and they proved to be cost prohibitive. We weren't able to do that. So when we moved it over, we talked about changing the center school to look more like the McCarthy and changing the McCarthy to look more like the center and to be able to do that. None of the plans were set in stone until 2 weeks ago when we finally determined that the center school was going to reopen. We had to adapt. We've had to move. This wasn't a decision that we've made lightly. It wasn't a decision that we made in isolation. These have been discussions that have been going on for months and months, and they haven't been finalized, and they're still not finalized. We haven't had a vote on it. We haven't shared it out, but we're trying to make the best decision that we can and share it out with people and try to be as transparent as we can.
Now, what kind of extra space will we have if more than 243 people want to come back to the center school? How will we handle that? How will we decide who comes and doesn't?
Based on the numbers that we have and the conversations that we've had, we do not believe that our class size will exceed the contractual limits. We believe that we have the information from the parents of where they want to go next year. We have to get it out, and if there are decisions to make beyond this, we can certainly bring it back to the committee. But based on all the information that we have, with the streets that we have reassigned, all of our students can fit at the center school. We did a survey in December. We have 200 families that have responded to that survey, and we have information on where people want to go.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Dunn. Mr. Miko?
Thank you through the chair, and thank you, Ms. Dunn. You know, this isn't perfect. I mean, we've admitted this, and for the way this all started out, you know, there were issues. We all know that. They've been, you know, spoken about by us, by parents, by everyone involved. But I do think over the last month or so that this committee, the redistricting committee, the mayor, the superintendent, I think we've been very open. We've been very honest in what we're trying to do here. We're trying to preserve a building. We're trying to bring back a neighborhood school. We're trying to work on, I won't call it overcrowding, I'll call it at capacity, because that's where we're at. And again, it's because we do have 8 elementary schools that we value, that we want, and you know, that's gonna take a lot of patience, not only now, but 2, 3, 4 years down the road, 8 years down the road when the center school shows its age again. I mean, we're gonna have to have a lot of patience if we wanna have the 8 elementary schools that we have, and we do. It's great. I mean, you know, this is a community that values its 8 schools. We, you know, and we have, you know, those basketball games, the rivalries. You've got the little Olympics, or the big Olympics at the high school. These are things that make this community a great community. Not to mention the relationships that kids and parents alike build through their neighborhood because they're going to their neighborhood schools. So, yeah, it's not perfect. I agree to some extent with some of the things Ms. Dunn says, but ideally, this is the best we're doing. And the superintendent has assured those legacy center school parents that, you know, we're playing their game. We're there for them. Whatever they basically need, we're we're going to accommodate them. The mayor's been very clear about that. I think we have been. So, you know, I don't really want to look at what happened 2 months ago or 3 months ago, 4 months ago. I want to look at what we're doing now. And I think we've been very, very open, very honest, and we're trying the best under the circumstance. And we want to keep 8 elementary schools open. And I hope we keep 8 elementary schools open for as long as I'm here or we're all here, because it's the right thing to do. Some communities don't value small elementary schools. We do. It's what keeps Peabody, a large city, 55,000, such a small town feel around its neighborhoods and schools. So again, it's not perfect, but I want to thank the redistricting committee, superintendent, his team, mayor, and Mr. Hockman for all the hard work. It wasn't easy, and under the circumstances, I'm pleased with what we're moving forward with. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Amico. Mr. Hockman?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Dr. Vidala, for the presentation, and thank you to Ms. Dunn and Mr. Amico for the questions and the comments. I just want to respond to a few of the things that were brought up. The redistricting committee, when it comes to the proposals that were presented on the March 26th meeting that are recommendations to this committee, yeah, we looked at transportation. Sure we did. I mean, part of the reasons that the pockets of pupils that we're going to talk about tonight were identified were because they were already on buses. They were already part of the transportation count, the cost. We were mindful and cognizant of the budgetary limits that this district has and didn't want to impose any greater transportation costs than we already have. We feel that the manners in which the proposed changes will affect the city will not add buses, not add transportation times, will reduce some transportation times, particularly in peak traffic situations. We'll keep neighborhoods together, which was an important factor for us. Maintain, there were some other proposal, there were some other portions of the plan. I know, excuse me, there were some other areas that we looked at and discussed that would have an impact on the center school that we rejected because we didn't want to increase certain travel times, and we thought that traveling past schools to get to the ultimate elementary school wasn't in the best interest of students. I know before the center school was temporarily shut down for the repairs that are taking place, I was getting phone calls weekly about the overcrowding. I know you don't want to use that term, Mr. Amico. It was overcrowded. I was getting phone calls about children receiving services from reading specialists and math tutors on the stage in the gymnasium, cafeteria, auditorium, and those services were being provided in cubicles without any privacy, without any dignity for students who were struggling with academics, who needed help. And we know as a committee, we focused as a committee in lean budget times and in good budget times to add tier 2 and tier 3 specialists because we understand the value of that. And we were in a building with students who were receiving those services because they deserve to receive those services and they're entitled to receive those services, but not in the manner in which we would have liked. And now that the center school's been shut down for the repairs that are taking place, there's a significant portion of the center school population at the McCarthy School. And we made a decision when we decided to take the center school offline for those repairs to keep as many center school students together as possible. And that meant moving that the preschool, the integrated preschool out of the McCarthy so that we could keep as many center school students and teachers and people together. And we did that because we were conscious and we were concerned about the welfare of students, as we always are. I'm proud of this committee for that. I'm proud of being part of this committee because that's our focus. Now that the McCarthy School is populated the way it is, I'm not getting any phone calls about the overcrowded McCarthy School. I'm not getting any phone calls about services that are being provided to students in a manner that is really unjust. I'm not getting phone calls except to hear people say that, for the most part, they're happy with where they are. We don't, as far as I can see, in my 16 years here, we don't, as a committee, get to tell the superintendent where programs go within our schools. That's the purview of the superintendent. He's elected to continue to keep the integrated preschool at the center school. And we may like that, and we may dislike that, but I can certainly, based upon the rationale that he shared with me, support it. 75% of the families that attend the integrated preschool live on the south and east side of town. And they're traveling up to the McCarthy School, whether it's a 3-year-old in a bus. We're worried about 10, 11-year-olds in a bus going from one neighborhood on maybe Prospect Street over to the McCarthy. Well, what about a 3-year-old on the bus going from Aborn Street down to the McCarthy? 75% of the students that attend the integrated preschool live on the south and east side of town, and that's not even to identify the families that don't go to the preschool that live on the south and east side of town because they feel as if they're marginalized and can't get to West Peabody. So I do support moving the integrated preschool to the center school for a variety of reasons. One, it's less taxing on that building, and we all understand the condition of that building, even after the repairs that we've invested are going to be made. But also on maybe on a social justice platform, it's a more appropriate place for that school. And that's not to say I don't feel badly for people in West Peabody that now have to drive over to the center school for services at the integrated preschool, but I can support the superintendent's decision on this too. So with that, I would ask, and I don't know what the appropriate way to do this is, because it is an emotional subject, and I respect Ms. Dunn, and I respect her position here. I don't know if we do public participation. I'd like to take this vote that the superintendent's asking us to do during subcommittee reports and let public participation flow. There are some parents here, some families here that have been with us quite a bit in the last couple of weeks, and they deserve to be heard. So if it's all right with the committee and all right with the chair, I'd like to take it in that order.
Through Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Hockman. Mr.
If
Miko?
there's no, if everyone's on board with it, we can move public participation now, have the parents come up. If that's what you were saying through the chair, Mr. Hockman, that way they don't have to wait. We can move them forward.
Thank you. Before I do that, Mr. Swanson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the committee, and I agree with, and I appreciate the questions you've posed, Mrs. Dunn. But I also agree with the way that Mr. Hockman put it. I have also received communications from our constituents regarding the overcrowding at that school and the conditions that it was in. I do support the move of the pre-K to the center school, and it's unfortunate. I think Dr. Abdallah, Mr. Mayor, you've done a really good job of communicating that you will be working with these families, the ones that are here, the ones that are affected, to make sure that all their students now and those coming in will have the ability to go to the center school. So I really appreciate what you've done, what you've put on public record to help our families and make their decisions. With that, I have one question to Dr. Abdallah regarding your family choices April 2nd to April 17th. Could you, for everybody's, could you illustrate what that's going to happen? Are they getting a notice tomorrow or through that time period that they're going to be attending a school and they have the choice to communicate with you? How is that communication structured, just for our knowledge?
Yes, so I'll jump to the last slide because I do think it's relevant now. So let me just get this back up. What the heck? I apologize. I'm not sure what happened there. Okay, so I'll do it without the slide. All right, so the plan would be tomorrow, families would receive notification from us through an email. It would have the student's name, grade, address, and the new neighborhood school. So very similar to the communication that they received on the way out. So they'll receive a notification, and it'll tell them this is your neighborhood school for 2025-26. And if you would like to apply for open enrollment, we're going to run a similar process to the way that we did this last time. Sometime between tomorrow and April vacation, please click on the link below, and it'll bring you to a form that will allow you to apply for open enrollment. That process, again, parents don't have to do it immediately. They can schedule meetings with us. We can receive phone calls, personal meetings, things like that. We'll work with all the families to make sure that they get their choice, and then we'll approve those as we go. If families need an extension beyond April 17th, families can have an extension, and we'll work with them within that proper timetable. So we'll have the numbers of the schools throughout the district as well, and if anybody needs some help with that, Dr. Higgins and I, very similar to the way that we went out, we'll have meetings to welcome families back in, or if they want their students to remain at their current school, they'll be able to do that as well. So they'll receive that notification pending a vote tonight. They'll receive that tomorrow, and then we'll start the process of signing kids up through open enrollment.
Thank you. On that, for the families that are listed for redistricting, could we create a policy to confirm, particularly with those? I don't think you need to reach out to everybody on the center school list, but those that are tasked with redistricting, that they do get the email, they do understand that they have the option to reach out. I know it's a
Yes,
not a
no,
massive, but it's a
that's
number.
very reasonable. We can make sure we confirm that they know where their child is attending, and that they confirm that that's where they want to go. So we can work on that.
Thank you. That is all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Swanson. Mrs. Dunn?
I'll just say one final thing. I can understand the frustration of the parents, and I appreciate your understanding that this is emotional. Redistricting is emotional. I will speak of my own frustration that redistricting is a difficult topic. We're getting information now about one school, two or three neighborhoods. This is what we should have been talking about at the school committee for at least the last 3 years. My understanding is the last time there was a meeting of the redistricting committee was 3 years ago, which is why I am asking questions about the currency of the numbers, about the process itself, and that's why I have reservations, because this was something we should have been doing all along with our schools. The center school was not the only one that had overcrowded classrooms. We have all kinds of classrooms that were at or over class size over the past 3 years. And we were going to do redistricting for equity, to be able to redistribute our students depending upon where they lived, because we do believe in neighborhood schools. Having this come up so suddenly with respect to one school that was already in turmoil is part of the difficulty here. And I want the school committee to understand that, and I want ongoing discussions from this point on about class sizes in all of our schools. I want every school to be able to have a library media center especially, separate from classroom. I want to make sure that we don't have people trying to find spaces in closets for specialists. Those should be ongoing conversations, and they should be supported by good data that may point out where redistricting is needed. And that is one of my frustrations right now. So I'm going to tell you, I know I said it and no one else liked what I said when I said we lost the trust. You lost my trust. You lost my trust. Yeah, you did, Dr. Vitale.
Mrs. Dunn, redistricting is on the school committee's agenda every meeting.
Right, and we never hear
Every
anything
meeting.
about it. I know, go back, look at the
It's
tapes.
a subcommittee. I don't run subcommittees, Mrs.
I
Dunn.
know,
And
I know,
we'll
but you're the
we'll do everything that we can to do this, but we have all the data that you want. I've asked several times
I've asked
for a
for
list
the
of
data.
questions. I'm here to present anything that you have, anything that you need. I've done that for 5 years, and I'll continue to do that as long as I'm the superintendent.
All right, well, we're going to go forward from this point, but I want you to understand where I'm coming from. That's all I'll say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Dunn. Any other comments or questions? And I just wanted to add to that, Mrs. Dunn. I've always been, and I mentioned this at the redistricting committee meeting, I've always said that I don't like redistricting. It was a personal thing that happened to me when I was in school, and I just don't, it's not something, so I've been very hesitant, and in fact, at times I didn't want to discuss redistricting. I did feel because of some equity issues and overcrowding, and the two schools that I felt were overcrowded were the center and the south, as well as some others. And I felt that there needed to be a movement to the West Peabody schools. And I've been open and upfront about that years ago when I asked the group to start looking into that. So this isn't a surprise to me in the sense that we're moving students west to kind of take away some of the overcrowded and capacity issues we've had at the schools that are on the south part of Peabody and the east part of Peabody. So that was what the charge was for the committee, was that very thing. And I think that's something we all talked about at different points, and that was why we all voted to have the redistricting committee look into these. And so this was not a surprise to me in the sense that there was going to be some realignment to move students to the west part of town, to those three schools that I felt had some capacity ability. And so that's kind of where we stood. And to me, this was a way to help the center and the south in particular. The south was again overcrowded this year because they were helping and they took a lot of the students in. But the whole point of the redistricting was to move students from the center, from the south, maybe the Carroll Brown a little bit, but primarily in my mind it was the center and the south, and to move those to the West Peabody schools that at the time had more capacity. Okay. All right.
That concludes the superintendent's report.
Okay, so superintendent's report is complete. We are going to continue the discussion in the redistricting committee, but I think that's a good suggestion to open it up to anybody here today that would like to speak. Public participation, we'd open it up now to anybody that would like to come forward. Yep, come on, Sue. Please introduce yourself.
Hello again. I'm Susan Petrodelis. I have a son that is now being redistricted to McCarthy. But first, I want to tell you I appreciate you working with all the families. I do appreciate the offer that he can go back. I definitely don't want to beat a dead horse, but I do want to say that the decision for the preschool to stay at the center was never, we were never informed, and I respect it's your decision, and I respect you doing it because you think it's best. Totally get it. My problem is we weren't told. We didn't know. I actually found out from the current school my son goes to at a PTO meeting that the preschool was staying at the center. I reached out to you right away. I was at every meeting. I was supposed to be on the building committee meeting. That didn't happen. I just want to say that we should have known. And I do believe you're doing what you believe is best, and I appreciate that, and I respect that. You have a difficult job. But the fact that we didn't know. So had we known, I might not have stayed on, I mean, I'm on the PTO there, my kid's not even going there. So we didn't know that. Had we known that, that wouldn't have happened. So that's my disappointment. And my other disappointment is we're acting like this came out of the redistricting committee. If they haven't met in 3 years, it was your decision. It had nothing to do with the redistricting committee. The proposals that were on the redistricting committee paper, this wasn't one of them. So I just want it known that it's your decision, and I respect that, but we can't say it came from the redistricting committee. That was a formality to vote on it there and bring it here. What else did I have? And if you made that decision after the fact, after the community meeting, all we needed to know was just no, just tell us. Because then we could have worked with it, internalized it, and it not be such a shock, and then get so angry about it and frustrated. So just be open and honest. That's all we want. Thank you.
Thank you,
But Mrs. Dunn, thank you. You've been a great support to us, and you listen to us and at the citywide PTO and PAB. We appreciate you, and we're here to support you too.
Thank you, Susan. Anybody else would like to come forward? Welcome, and if you just please introduce yourself.
My name is Michelle Ryan. I'm really going to try to read this because I don't do this much. And I just thought it was important that you hear from someone who's not a center school parent about how disappointed non-center school parents are in this whole process. A lot has been said in the last few weeks about the school and how the project was handled by the school committee. At last week's redistricting meeting, there was a lot of information shared that was left out of the community meetings, whether probably just as an oversight, intentionally came up after the fact, but certainly that was not shared with the parents, and they would have made different decisions about the last year if they had known about the redistricting. And I think it's been kind of disappointing to see everyone go back and try to bury this as if we told you, you knew, this is just a part of the process, because it wasn't clear. And then going forward, just a building committee was formed for this project but never had meetings. No updates are provided. You put a facilities manager, the mayor, in charge of this project. I don't even know who. It's been unclear who was actually responsible for what the work was and what was supposed to get done and who was supposed to be held accountable. And I do appreciate that the mayor put together a list of items that are remaining or have been done as part of the project, but I'm not sure what was discussed with the staff at the school, the parents at the school, about what really needed to be done while the building's closed for a whole year. And so going forward, it would just be really nice if people on this committee tried to be more transparent for real. And I did want to say that I'm not here to badmouth anyone. I actually like the people on this committee, the mayor, the superintendent. I know you do a lot for the schools and the community. This was handled really, really badly.
Thank you. Anybody else who would like to come forward and speak? Welcome, Kristen. If you can just introduce yourself, please.
Hi, everyone. Kristen Green, back again, I guess. Thank you again, Mrs. Dunn, for everything you've done, all the support you've had. I guess, I don't know if everything's in order, but I kind of have a list as well of items. But I guess there's a lot of questions for all these people. We have a deadline of April 17th, which we said could be extended, but I think a lot of people are not going to be able to make their decision if they don't know if they're going to have transportation, what the school is going to look like inside, what the population's going to be, and especially I come from a family with 3 kids. My youngest is still little, toddler, but my other 2 are going to be in 5th and 4th grade. The 5th graders are going to want to stick together. As already been talked about, there's a lot that goes on in the 5th grade year, the basketball games, all this stuff. And then if you factor in all their siblings, I guess we need to have more of a game plan, and as discussed before, we feel that it wasn't as transparent this other part of the process, but for decision-making, we need to be transparent about, so what's the game plan if we have, I don't know, let's say 60 fifth graders say, we want to come back, we're legacy students. What are you going to do with the preschool counts? How is that going to affect other grades? So we need to maybe have another meeting that we really iron this out, because it's still very, it's not black and white. There's a lot of gray lines in here, and it's very confusing. And then I want to talk about neighborhoods. We're talking about neighborhood schools. Currently, I'm in the Loris Road, Reynolds area. Right now, we have very few in the elementary, but we will have a lot of upcoming kids, probably in 3-4 years. We have like a lot of smaller children. But right now, our neighborhood is completely split up. We're west, Carroll, and south. So they're not with their friends. They're not with their neighbors. We're all scattered. These things aren't considered. We're just broken up. So I think the upcoming year, you know, again, is our neighborhood, as an example, gonna return? Are we gonna have to make our decision on transportation? And then we're all gonna be split up again? So these things we think of as parents. I think as school committee members, I don't know if you have children, maybe they're older, maybe that's not really on your mind anymore, but that needs to be considered for us as parents. And then also traffic patterns, going back to where schools are districted. We can, you know, I think a lot of this concern is also the redistricting committee looking at the city as a whole, because after the handouts we were given last week, a lot of us did look at them and study them and think about it, and maybe we shouldn't have, maybe we should have put them to the side, but just looking at my numbers of school populations, I mean, the South School is still gonna be overpopulated, even when next year when Center reopens. Have we thought about that? And the West and the Burke are really not. And have we thought about pushing people towards those two schools instead of overcrowding McCarthy? I mean, are people too far away? But looking again at our neighborhood, saying we're gonna be Carroll, right now we have one child that chose to go there, and they take the bus. Sometimes they come home at 4 o'clock. To me, that's unacceptable. You get out of school at 2:55. So they're sitting in traffic for that long, that poor child. And these things are not considered, because we just look at a map and we think, oh, we're half a mile closer, so that's gonna work out. But we have to look at traffic patterns too. Like, there's a lot involved. So I just wanna make sure that, again, we're gonna use the Brooksby area as an example. I have a lot of friends that live there. I know one parent, as an example, had an older daughter that went to McCarthy, okay? That's where this has happened before in this district. So they were at McCarthy, the Brooksby area. They were told they gotta go to Center. So the daughter got moved to Center. Then their younger son was at Center. Had to be placed temporary to McCarthy for the closing. Now redistricted to McCarthy. So that poor family has been tossed around twice. To me, that's unacceptable. I'm sorry. So I think lastly, it's just making sure this is really studied, you know? And I think, again, the formality of saying, yes, we did, but I think keeping the preschool is just an easy solution. And I don't think it was really, okay, we're gonna think about the future and about who's gonna be affected next. Because as the mayor mentioned, redistricting's horrible. No one wants to go through it. So why are we not looking at this holistically and saying, all right, now we're gonna move all these kids. We have to look at the whole city and think about who this is gonna affect next. Are we gonna keep on tossing the Brooksby Farm area back and forth? We can't be doing that. You know, that's why you guys are here, because you care. Well, I'm assuming that's why you're here. So we need to consider this, please. Please consider this. Thank you.
Thank you, Kristen. Welcome.
Good night, everyone. Marcy Ruggiero, Vice President, Center PTO, Vice President of McCarthy PTO now, going to be redistricted to McCarthy, going to choice to Center, but still the time frame scares me because we haven't seen the air quality tests for Center. The building looks great. A lot of work has been done. And again, we've been here for the past 2 weeks. I've been here almost every night for all of the meetings. And I feel like the decisions have already been made. And again, a lot of work's been into it. So I feel like everything we're saying is probably not going to be taken into consideration. But one thing that actually surprises me is I've been at the book fair this week at the McCarthy. I'm talking to the McCarthy parents. I'm surprised none of them are here, because not only is there outrage from Center, the McCarthy parents are really, really upset. And I think some of the views that they've expressed would almost be socially unacceptable in this day and age. They are still grasping with the migrants that are there, the difficulties that the teachers are having since the first day of school, communicating with the Haitian Creole population. We're set for MCAS this week, next week. It's really scary for some of these teachers. I watch them using Google Translate at the book fair, just trying to help some of these children to pick out their books, and to know that they still don't speak English, a lot of them. Now they got us over there. Like I said, I feel like we're the bad news bears coming from Center. They feel like they've been infiltrated twice. Again, might not be acceptable for them to say things like this, but behind closed doors and in private discussions, that's what's happening at McCarthy. So my reason for not wanting to be redistricted to McCarthy is because I feel like we're not wanted there. I feel like they feel that we're overcrowded. We started with 24 in the fourth grade classes. There was no leeway to move around. We have lost a few children. My concern with choosing Center by April 17th, we still don't have exact numbers in the class. If you tell me there's going to be 27 in the 5th grade next year, then I don't want my son going there. And then again, he's going to be split from his friends. And I know we've discussed this a lot, like what happens if we get the extra kids in 5th grade? How are we really going to battle that with budget and everything? But I still think it's premature for us to make decisions, all of us. And I know you're working with us, Josh. I just sent you a crazy email. Like, I know you're working with us as best as you can, but I still think there's gray areas of unforeseen situations, which I know you've committed to accommodate. But that's going to hold up some of us still. Even teachers are on the fence. I've been talking to teachers all week, the past 2 weeks. What are you doing? I've given up the specific teacher in my head of who we might want, and it's more so of the number crunches again, and also, as Jared, as we were talking to with the buses, the transportation. My son's still on a highway going to school every day from Prospect over to McCarthy. It is the fastest route. If he goes up Lowell at that time, they're almost late for school, and if he comes back a certain route, they're not back till 3:50. It's an hour from school. So again, I know a lot of work has been put into this. That's just, I'm surprised again that there's no one from McCarthy here, because they are concerned about the numbers too, and who's gonna stay and who's gonna leave. So that's kind of, I just had one more. Just the air quality testing. That I know that all this work's been done, but we haven't seen anything. We were asking a few weeks ago for an independent, some independent testing done. We haven't seen that, and that is holding up a lot of parents. And I think that in the final hour, I think a lot of these people are going to want to come back to Center when they see these certain, like the numbers and things like that. So again, there's so many moving parts that are affecting our decisions, and I just don't want you guys to be blindsided by like 45 or extra kids that will come back when they know the coast is clear and they know that their friends are coming back. So thank you.
Thank you, Marcy. I did want to mention, and I'm just checking now, I wasn't sure if the air quality, and we went with an independent company, if it was this Friday, if it was this past Friday or this coming Friday. I just don't know. We're looking it up to find out the date, and they said usually takes about a week to get the report. So we have, either the testing was done Friday, we're waiting for the report, or it's going to be done this Friday. So hopefully we'll have that information as to what day it was. It was last Friday. So we should be getting that report this week. Thank you.
It was the 28th.
March 28th, the testing was completed. Thank you, Marcy. Anybody else would like to come up and speak? Okay. Anybody that would like to join us remotely?
Nope, seeing none online.
Okay, thank you. All right. We do have written communications. One item, the center school redistricting street listing.
Motion to receive.
Heard the motion to receive by Mr. Hockman, seconded by Mr. Swanson. That's a unanimous vote. And subcommittee reports. Education, Mr. Amico?
Yes, I'll be scheduling, through the chair, I'll be scheduling a meeting with Dr. Chase in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you. We did mention, we'll hold finance, school safety, athletics and wellness. Mr. Hockman, anything to report?
Just that spring sports are underway. I had a chance to watch a freshman baseball game taking place today. We were hosting Swampscott over at Carroll Savage. And good luck to all the student athletes that are participating in spring sports.
Quality and standards, Mrs. Dunn, anything to report?
Just, we're trying to schedule a meeting for prior to the April 29th meeting.
Great, thank you. Parent and student advisory boards?
The Parent Advisory Board met last Thursday. We spoke about center school update, gave them a high school update, talked about the need for making sure there are libraries. There were a lot of questions about the center school project and the center school situation. Concern about the buses, worried about class size, treatment of minority students at the McCarthy. Concerned, and just something to keep an eye on, that for all the students that are out of the center school, this is the first year the majority of them are not on medication for indoor allergies. And it's something that parents have been speaking of, and wonder if we can keep an eye on that. It's anecdotal, I know that, but they've noticed it. So hopefully the cleaning at the center school may help.
Thank you, Mrs. Dunn. Building and grounds?
No report this
No
week.
report. We'll hold special education, city council legislative delegation. Before we go redistricting, Mr. Swanson, I wanted to see if you had any update or any report on performing arts.
Thank you. We actually had a meeting last week, so this one will be short. The Stage 1 Drama Club, Protection and Clydes, won the state finals, so this is 3 years in a row. Is it Dynasty in 3? Can we call it Dynasty? PBDs? All right. So we now officially going to... Yeah, we're going to officially deem the PBD's Performing Arts program a dynasty. They've been doing awesome with that. A few all-stars. Miles Fitzgerald, won an award for excellence in acting. Temperance Reed, Tabitha Muse, please excuse my mispronunciation. Victoria Weinberg, Yanel De Jesus, and Angelera Machari won for the technical excellence in culinary, prop design, and management. If you all had the chance to see it, you see how well these students do, not just in acting, but in their technical skills. And this is all put on by the 55 students, from those that are acting, those that are doing the lights, the choreography. They put this program together, which is phenomenal. Galen Beltry for technical excellence in movement coordination, again with lighting and sound. And Tijan Camara, was a recipient of the Michael McCarty Excellent in Acting Award for the role of Monteros. This is a trustee's award for his outstanding acting. I hope you all had the chance to catch their play, their performance. We're hoping to have them in May because they have a conflict at the end of this month. But again, awesome job by them and making PBD proud and presenting against the state. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Swanson. That was a great report. I just want to speak on this for a moment. I went last night. My daughter and I went to the play. Mr. Hockman was there. And, I was blown away by just the amazing ability and skill that was. The acting was unbelievable. The stage work, the production, lighting, sound. The scenery was great. It was very much adult content, and some of it was difficult. Just a difficult content, but the performance was just amazing. And I always go. My family and I would go every year, and just to appreciate the work that goes into it. And again, I was blown away last night. Miss Manning, Mr. Carey, and just the incredible work that was done there was just something to watch. So absolutely, Dynasty 3 years in a row, state champions. That's something that not many cities and towns can boast about, but we have incredible performing arts. And I'm very glad that you continue to bring up, Mr. Swanson, the performances that are taking place in the city. But stage one they were stars yesterday, and I was so proud to be a part of it and watch and listen and just see our incredible talent that was taking place there. So that was wonderful. I'm sure Mr. Hockman would like to comment as well, but I was completely blown away again, and that was something special.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, the subject matter that these kids, student performers, continue to take on with the leadership that's there, teachers and directors and staff members that participate. Two things that really struck me about last night. There was a little question and answer session after the performance, and during the question and answer session, one thing that blew me away was how many students from other school districts came back to attend this performance. Students that participated in the state competition from Walpole, from Weymouth, I think from Reading, I mean, from some significant distances, to me, really showed and exuded the sportsmanship and the teamwork that takes place, that our Peabody High, Veterans Memorial High School staff members are teaching our student performers how to interact with other opponents, right? Other cities and towns that are competing against them to earn their respect and to the point that they would travel that distance to come see the play. Second thing that really blew me away during the question and answer session was the homework that these student performers undertake to understand their roles, understand the content of the performance that they're performing, and they talked about having culinary art experts show them how to make sandwiches, how to cut vegetables. They talked about for those of you that didn't see the play, it takes place in a like a truck stop sandwich shop kitchen. It's the back side of the restaurant, and I don't know who they talked to, but they alluded to a few people about, and all of the people that worked in the sub shop were ex-convicts, and they all had some issues. They all had stuff. They had life going on in addition to the transgressions that they've committed during the course of the characters' lives. And they talked to whomever to really get into a role where they understood what it would be like to be an ex-convict. And I was astonished by that. I was astonished that they were able to really grasp and capture that as, 15, 16, 17-year-old kids. That's just remarkable to me. But anyway, I can't say enough about Clyde, but I'll stop here. I think we have a jazz ensemble performance tomorrow, Mr. Swanson?
That is correct, at the high school. That is the middle school and the high school jazz ensemble will be performing at the high school tomorrow, 7 p.m. So, again, that's another fundraiser. Families will be there. If we can join them as well, help support the jazz performances would be awesome. And that's also posted on the district website.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Hockman and Mr. Swanson. I'm looking forward to honoring them when they come to an upcoming school committee meeting, so that's great. All right, redistricting. Mr. Hockman, anything you want to?
No, but yeah. So thank you. First, before the redistricting committee did meet again March 26th here at the Higgins Middle School. I do want to thank the members of the redistricting committee as it's most recently been formed. There was a lot of hard work put into this. There was a lot of time and effort and research and data that was collected and analyzed and discussed. Last Wednesday, March 26th, the redistricting committee meeting took 2 votes, which are recommendations to this school committee. The first vote was to change the home district for the Keys Drive, Essex Drive, Brooksby Farm neighborhood from the center school to the McCarthy School in school year 25-26 moving forward. So I'm going to make a motion to approve the recommendation of the redistricting committee in that manner. So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Hockman. You've heard the motion made, seconded by Mr. Amico. Any comments on the motion? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Hockman.
Yes.
Mr. Swanson.
Yes.
Mrs. Dunn.
No.
Mr. Amico.
Yes.
Mayor Bettencourt.
Yes.
The second recommendation that came out of the redistricting committee was to change the homeschool district for the Tammy Reynolds and Loris Road neighborhood that's currently in the center school, and change that for the 25-26 school year and moving forward to the Carroll School District. So I'm going to move to accept the recommendation of the redistricting committee. So moved.
Thank you for the motion by Mr. Hockman, seconded by Mr.
Second,
Amico.
I'm sorry.
Any comments or questions? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Hockman.
Yes.
Mr. Swanson.
Yes.
Mrs. Dunn.
No.
Mr. Amico.
Yes.
Mayor Bettencourt.
Yes.
That concludes the redistricting committee meetings report.
Thank you, Mr. Hockman. Our next meeting is April 29th, the regular school committee meeting that evening. Any new business proposals, please forward those as typically done to get on the agenda, and entertain a motion to adjourn. Thank you, everyone.